Hello, everybody. I am Bucky Badger W. Um, and this is my college football recap show for um, for week 7 of college football. It was a great week. Um, 5 ranked matchups, I believe, or four, my bad. 4 ranked matchups. A lot of big time, and a lot of close games, a lot of good games, especially the Florida LSU game. A lot of upsets. It was a good week in college football, probably the best I think we've had all year. Um, we're just gonna pretty much give the rundown of every game. We're gonna go in depth in some of them and just mention a couple others. But in the ACC first, Clemson crushes Florida State. Not wasn't really expecting anything different here. As far as Clemson going against Florida State. Clemson's basically better in every facet. They were at home. Not too shocking there. Duke beats 1-5 Georgia Tech behind huge second half. Sorry. Yeah, Duke beats 1-5 Georgia Tech, my bad, behind huge second half. Duke came back in this one, or didn't really come back, but they had a huge second half, propelled them to a win. And it was a big win for them. They couldn't afford to go down against 1-5 Georgia Tech. Virginia Tech crushes bad Rhode Island team. Not expecting anything different there. FCS team, Virginia Tech should have crushed them. NC State gets big win against Syracuse at home Thursday night. NC State. The double pass was pretty cool on Thursday night, I thought, but it was NC State needed a win. They dropped Syracuse to 3-3. Big game for NC State. They win 16-10. Uh, big defensive battle. But big win for NC State. Miami upsets Virginia. Miami upsets Virginia Friday night behind great situational football. Virginia, at one point, I was more watching the Baseball World Series or the baseball NLCS on Friday night. But I saw a little bit of the Miami Virginia game, and Virginia at one point had 5 trips to the red zone and 6 points to show for it. You can't have that when you're playing a team. They haven't been great this season, but Miami's a really good team, and you can't have that. They were missing Bryce Hall. It showed. Miami was able to win by only a score. Virginia kind of shows a bit about them. They didn't really play well at all. As far as situational wise, and they still almost went into Miami and pulled off a win. A big time win for Miami. They really needed it. And Louisville hands Wake Forest first loss of the season on the road in a shootout. I retweeted a graphic that I saw on Twitter. I believe it was by College Football Reddit. They said the Big Ten has as many undefeated teams now in Wisconsin, Minnesota. Wake Forest was undefeated. They lose at home to Louisville. We'll get to that game in a second. But Minnesota, Wisconsin, Penn State, Ohio State are all undefeated. They're all in the Big Ten. They have as many. Big Ten has as many undefeated teams as all the power conferences combined in LSU, Bama, Oklahoma, and what else was it? And no. Here, let me pull up the tweet. Okay, so in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Ohio State, and Penn State, the Big Ten has as many undefeated teams as the other power conferences combined, which is Bama, LSU, Oklahoma, and Baylor, and the non-power conferences combined, Boise State, SMU, Appalachian State, and Clemson. that I thought was pretty funny because obviously Clemson isn't a powerful conference. They're in the ACC, but it really isn't like that this year. Wake Forest, they were the last remaining undefeated team other than Clemson. They lose to not a very good Louisville team, missing Puma Pass. Um, just not a great year this year for the ACC. Um, I think I don't know. I mean, if Clemson goes undefeated, obviously they have a pretty good case to get to the college football playoff. But would you take a one-loss LSU ahead of an unbeaten Clemson? I don't know. That's the point that I'm at right now. This really doesn't relate to the Wake Forest game, but that's that's kind of just an interesting argument that that I think it's pretty interesting because LSU then would have beaten. I believe they would have beaten Florida. They would have beaten Auburn. They would have beaten Bama on the road. They would have beaten Texas on the road, and then they would have lost to maybe they would have lost to Bama. They would have beaten Texas A&M, so they would have a lot of big wins. Clemson really wouldn't. Every team that they would have beaten that was kind of big, so would have LSU. So I think that's an interesting little argument that I think could be mentioned there. Next up we have the American Conference. And we got first off Jordan Cronkrite leads USF to a win versus a win needing a team needing a win in BYU. Big time win for USF after the Wisconsin game and the Georgia Tech game. Everybody, including me, thought that they were done. They're making a comeback now. But they um not I'm not shocked that they beat BYU. BYU is not great this year. Um, small news in the American. Navy blows up Tulsa, gets to 3-1, and Tulane routs UConn behind McMillan's huge game. We will have some of those, just games that we won't really comment on because they weren't big enough. Cincinnati escapes versus Derek Kingless Houston. Um, they had to gut this one out. Tough win. I'm not as much of a believer in Cincinnati as maybe some. I don't think that UCF is as good as they were, nearly as good as they were a couple of years ago. So I don't think that that's as big of a win. And, they get blown out by Ohio State. They play UCLA close. I don't love Cincinnati this year, but they beat Houston. Derek Kingless Houston nonetheless. They still beat Houston. Big win for them. Temple takes down Memphis for second big home upset of the year. They already beat Maryland at home. Maryland isn't shaping up nearly as big as many people thought they would, but Temple takes down Memphis now. Memphis hadn't really been tested before now, and Temple hands them their first loss. Big time game for Temple. Will vault them into the top 25. I doubt it. But there's not a ton of good teams after you get past the elite teams, so you never know. But big win there for Temple. And next, the Big 12. It was a pretty big week for the Big 12. The two best teams in the Big 12 kind of escaped with wins. And so Iowa State runs away from competitive West Virginia. They really blew them out. Once this game was like 14-14. West Virginia, this is not their year. I don't think most people thought that it was their year. They played Texas close. They played Iowa State close for a short period of time. They got blown out by Missouri. It's not their year this year. I think they're headed in the right direction with Austin Kendall at quarterback, but this year's not their year. Baylor escapes upset and thriller over Texas Tech. Jet Duffy taking over for Alan Bowman. And Baylor, they really escaped in this one. Double overtime. They win 33-30. Big win for Baylor. This says, I think, a bit about them. I think before the season, I believe I had them beating Oklahoma. I think I had Oklahoma losing 2 games to Oklahoma State and Baylor. I would not have them beating Oklahoma now. I probably would not end up beating Texas, even though most people think they've been better than they were supposed to be. I think I don't know. I just don't think that they're quite on the level of Oklahoma and Texas. Leading into our next game, Oklahoma outscores Texas in surprisingly low-scoring Red River Showdown. Big time, big game here. Big college football playoff implications. I don't think that Texas can get back to the playoff after this, and it was kind of low scoring. Jalen Hurts did not have a very good game. CeeDee Lamb, I kind of carried Jalen Hurts in this game. Neither did Sam Ehlinger have a very good game. Oklahoma's defense was able to really get this win for them, and I was impressed with how well Oklahoma's defense played. They showed that Oklahoma can contend. They can be here. They can play in the college football playoff. They can win a national championship, I think. In the Big Ten, Indiana rolls Rutgers. Not really. Didn't really expect anything different in that game. Rutgers is not good. Indiana's okay. Indiana's okay right now. Rutgers is not good. Rondo Morless, Purdue, cream Maryland in offensive showcase. Big time win for Purdue. They needed to get back on track. They're 2-4 now. Still not really where they'd like to be, but beating Maryland. I mean, Maryland does not look good right now. After they beat Syracuse by a lot, and Syracuse doesn't look very good anymore. Looks like it's just the same old Maryland right now. Minnesota crushes Martinez-less Nebraska and gets to 6-0 start. Not a very impressive 6-0 start for Minnesota. They played Georgia State really close, or Georgia Southern, not Georgia State. Played Georgia Southern really close. They played Fresno State really close. Played South Dakota State really close. Almost lost all of those games, but then they've kind of rebounded against Illinois and Nebraska still, especially when Nebraska didn't have Adrian Martinez. Not two of the best teams, but they're 6-0. 6-0 is 6-0. 6-0 is 6-0 is 6-0. So I think if you're a Minnesota fan, this is very good right now. I believe next week they have Indiana, I believe. So I mean, not too tough of a game next week either. They have Penn State coming up pretty soon, but just enjoy it right now for Minnesota fans. Don't know if they're going to be able to compete in the Big Ten, but 6-0 baby. Michigan avoids embarrassment against Illinois. This was close. Jim Harbaugh, I think he was on the verge of losing his job in that game, because if they were up 28-0, and Illinois came back, they were only down 28-25 at one point. This was a close game. Michigan almost lost, and you can't play Illinois that close with the talent that they have. I don't think that they're competing right now with Penn State and Ohio State in the Big Ten East if they play like that. They can't, and they have to be better. Penn State grits out a huge win at Iowa. Probably the biggest game of the week in the Big Ten. Iowa won loss. I said that Iowa was going to win this game. I just thought at Kinnick it was going to be hard for Penn State to go in there and clutch out a win. They were able to do it, and they were able to win gritty. I think they needed a win like this on the road. They needed to be able to win gritty. They're not going to blow out Ohio State. They're probably not going to blow out Michigan. Probably not going to blow out Michigan State. Don't know about any of that, but they're not going to blow out Ohio State. They need to be able to win some of these, close, gritty games. They're not going to be able to blow every team out. So this was a big win for Penn State. Big. It helps the team, a win like that. And then Wisconsin pitches yet another shutout and blowout of Michigan State. I'm a Wisconsin fan. I watched this whole game. Wow, this was a beatdown. Jonathan Taylor couldn't get to 5,000 rushing yards, didn't get to 100 yards in the game, and they still found a way. or didn't really find a way, but they still blew out Michigan State, a good team. Jack Cohn played really well. Jonathan Taylor was pretty good. The defense was ridiculous. Bond had a pick six. Um, it was fun to watch. 38-0 win at Camp Randall. That Ohio State game looms on the horizon. They got to go to Champaign and get a win next week, but that might be the biggest game in the Big Ten this year. And I think they'll have a rematch of that game in Indianapolis in the Big Ten championship game, but not look too far ahead right now. In the CUSA, not much to speak of. I mean, it's the CUSA. Marshall beats Old Dominion to get back to 500. Southern Miss beats Mason Fine and North Texas on the road. FIU gets big win at Charlotte. Louisiana Tech drops UMass to 1-6 on offensive explosion, and Western Kentucky hands Army second straight loss. But Florida beats Middle Tennessee State to stay undefeated in the conference. I think Florida Atlantic, they'd be my favorite right now in the CUSA. Mason Fine in North Texas. Mason Fine's really good, but I think Florida Atlantic is probably my favorite, especially after beating MTSU. And then UAB crushes a bad UTSA team. They're for sure. Tyler Johnston III, pretty good at quarterback. It's going to be tough for UTS. It's going to be tough to, I guess, get in the way of UAB and FAU in the CUSA. Not really anything to speak of as well in the MAC. You got Western Michigan blows out Miami of Ohio behind dominant second and fourth quarters. Bowling Green upsets Toledo in low-scoring contest. Ball State rallies to knock off Eastern Michigan on the road. Central Michigan drops New Mexico State to 0-7 and remains undefeated at home. Kent State gets to 500 against winless Akron, and Northern Illinois beats Ohio on last-second field goal. And in the Mountain West, there is more to speak of. It's a bigger conference. Colorado State outscores New Mexico on Friday night. There was a SportsCenter not top 10 play there for New Mexico State. Go back and watch that. That was not good. Nevada beats San Jose State on game-winning field goal. Air Force scores 21 unanswered to run away from Fresno State. I think Air Force can get to a bowl game. I'm not sure about Fresno State. They kind of needed this one against Air Force. Big loss there for Fresno State. San Diego State clutches out big win over good Wyoming team. Wyoming is good this year. They beat Missouri. No Josh Allen, no problem for them. No Carl Granderson, no problem. But San Diego State, just a bit better this year. San Diego State is good, I think. Are they better than Boise State? Are they better than Utah State? I'm not sure. But big win for them, and we'll see if they can go and win a Mountain West championship. Boise State this is the big news of the week for the Mountain West. Boise State gets shootout win over Hawaii, but loses Hank Bachmeier in the process. This severely lowers their chances. I saw Bachmeier had a hip injury. We'll see how that affects him going forward. But if they lose him for a long time, I think either Utah State or San Diego State becomes the favorites in this conference. I mean, maybe I'm over-exaggerating because Boise State's really good, even without Bachmeier, but I'm not sure if they can win games against those teams without Bachmeier. And in the Pac-12, it's been tough to come away with takeaways from the Pac-12 this year. The Pac-12 is crazy this year, but Oregon, this week, it wasn't as crazy. Oregon shows dominance, beats up on Colorado. They just showed that they're a better team. They shut down Laviska Shenault, shut down Steven Montez. They won this game, I believe, 55-3. Coming off of a close win against Cal last week, it was a big confidence booster here for Oregon. Utah uses defense to shut down Oregon State on the road. Another blowout. Not expecting much else here. I had Utah in my best bets. I think Utah was favored by about 10.5. Yeah, I said for sure not. But Oregon State flying high off a conference win at UCLA. But they were not ever going to beat Utah, and they just got blown out. Washington surges to 38. Washington surges to 38-10 advantage in second half to beat Arizona behind Eason and Ahmed. Big second half for Washington. I thought that Arizona was going to win this game. But Jacob Eason, Salvan Ahmed, they showed Washington, they're here. They can still win this. They can still win games in this Pac-12. I think they've already lost 2 conference games. They're for sure not out of it, but it's going to be tough for them to get back into it, especially if they lose to Oregon. But yeah, don't count Washington out yet. This is still a really good football team. Notre Dame squeaks out a win against USC. Wow, that one was close for Notre Dame. 30-27. It would have been a big loss. Dropped to 2 losses. Now they've beaten Virginia and USC at home in 2 close games. It's been tough in both of those games, but they managed to get a win. That's all that matters. A win's a win. And Notre Dame has been able to do that this year. They almost beat Georgia. Not exactly sure what to think about Notre Dame. I think this maybe enlightens USC in the eyes of people, but I'm not sure. I'm just not sure yet about USC. And then Arizona State escapes madness, hands Washington State its 3rd straight loss. Anthony Gordon was licking his chops to get an upset here because so far expect the unexpected for the Pac-12. And I guess I have expected the kind of expected because every week it seems the team that's favored to win is going to lose. That's just how it is this year. And Arizona State was able to break that narrative and get a big home win against Washington State. Let's see if they can keep it up. And even though they are alphabetically next in the conferences, we are going to hold off on the SEC because in favor of not ending on the Sun Belt. Georgia State runs all over Coastal Carolina in the Sun Belt. UL Monroe beats Texas State on Thursday night. And App State stays unbeaten on Wednesday night at Louisiana. Big win for App State. I don't think they're going to be ranked like last year, but you never know. It's a good App State team, but not great. That's why they play in the Sun Belt. And the SEC had easily the biggest week out of any conference. Easily. Let's just get into it. Tennessee dominates with defense and upsets Mississippi State. Tennessee is now 2-4. Tennessee fans can breathe a sigh of relief. They were able to beat a non-Chattanooga State team. But Tennessee, good win for Tennessee. Good for them. I believe next week they have Alabama, so it's short-lived, but good week for Tennessee. UNLV crushes Vanderbilt, and where does Vandy go from here? Wow, the Running Reds crush Vanderbilt on the road. I said through the first couple weeks, Vanderbilt did not, they were 0-3, but I said, let's give them a break. They played Georgia, LSU, I think they also played Purdue, so they played 3 power conference teams, 2 of them extremely good, 1 of them not as good, but still, give them a break. Well, now they don't just lose to UNLV, they get crushed. Where do you go from here? I don't know if you're Vanderbilt. I don't know if you go. I don't know where you go from here. Jeez. Kentucky survives at home against Arkansas and gets first conference win. Can't talk right now. Sawyer Smith, over for Terry Wilson. Big win for Kentucky against Arkansas. Not a good Arkansas team. Kentucky needed this one. They almost lost also, but they really, really needed this one. They could not afford to lose this game coming off of a 10-2 season. Fan base would not have been happy with that. Missouri keeps 5-game win streak alive at home versus Ole Miss. Missouri, they haven't really beaten anybody that good, but they They're 5-1 now. Their only loss is to Wyoming. That's why I say that Wyoming, they've been pretty good this year. But Missouri's only loss has been to Wyoming. They're 5-1, quietly on a 5-game win streak. They keep that alive. I believe they play Florida and Georgia at the end of the season, so this win streak could keep alive for a pretty long time. Alabama goes on the road and dominates Texas A&M. Not anything that I wasn't expecting. This isn't Texas A&M's year. 2020 is Texas A&M's year. This is not Texas A&M's year. Alabama is too good. Their offense is too overpowered. They have 4 NFL receivers. 3 of them are Jerry Jeudy, guaranteed first rounder, probably top 5 pick. Henry Ruggs, almost certainly a first rounder. Devontae Smith, almost certainly a first or second rounder. And then Jalen Waddle is going to get taken day 1 or 2 in the NFL draft, probably day 2, but still. Najee Harris, one of the top running backs in college football. Tua Tagovailoa, the top quarterback in college football, in my opinion. You got ridiculous offensive line. It's too hard to stop for Alabama, and Texas A&M could not do it, even at Kyle Field. Not impressed with Texas A&M. Not surprised either, though. Undermanned South Carolina upsets Georgia in Sanford Stadium. Georgia does not impress. Wow. Both of these teams both trying to lose this game if I ever saw it. Both of these teams did not play well. Neither of them played well. South Carolina, I guess, played pretty well. But at the end of that game, they did not play well. Rodrigo Blankenship, as reliable as they come, misses a game winner or game tire. Jake Fromm throws 3 picks. I would pick Florida against Georgia right now. I do not think that Georgia is very good at all right now. I think Georgia's top 10. Sorry, but sorry, Georgia fans, but Georgia's not a college football playoff team right now. In my opinion, they're not as good as Alabama. Where do you go from here if you're Georgia? A loss against South Carolina. The Braves give up 10 runs in the first inning to the Cardinals. Really? Just Georgia sports fans now is not. Falcons are 1-4. Georgia sport fans now is not good for them. But huge win for South Carolina. I don't think they're gonna do much this year. Just big win for them. Without Ryan Helinski, I repeat, they still won this game. Just oh my, ridiculous. LSU hangs on to beat Florida in humongous game Saturday night in Death Valley. The outcome of this game wasn't as big as the outcome of the Georgia-South Carolina game, but this was such a fun game to watch. Yeah, this game was just really fun to watch. Joe Burrow played amazing. Kyle Trask played amazing. It was in Death Valley, big game, Saturday night. Both LSU's defense came up big. Florida's defense at times came up big. LSU's offense really won this game, but LSU's defense came up big at points. I think LSU should for sure be the number 1 team in the country after this week. I don't think there's any way that you can debate that. LSU has beaten Texas on the road. They've beaten Florida now. Nobody else has that resume. LSU's looked really good. I don't think they're going to beat Alabama, but this LSU team, they're really good. And that is it for this week of the Bucky Badger W podcast, college football recap podcast. Like, subscribe, comment if you disagreed with me on any of these teams, where you have them going. I think I will have another episode coming out this week, probably college football preview, probably talking a little NFL, maybe a little MLB, probably some NBA. Get ready for that, and I will see you next time. Peace.